Hello there everyone, this is Unremarkable. Today we're going to be ranking Jujutsu Kaisen characters based on whether or not they could defeat Raditz from Dragon Ball Z. Now, I've discussed Raditz before in previous videos, so if you want to know where he scales, you can watch those videos and then just come right back to this one. As you can see, we have all the tiers here, nice and organized. We have, that one doesn't really matter, but we have no chance, above 0%, maybe, probably, 100%, meaning they can beat Raditz. They will beat Raditz. And then clears DBZ. This is for one character in particular. I don't... Very subtle about it, but... So anyway, we're just going to go up to down from Yuji Itadori to Royman Sukuna down there. So the first one is going to be Yuji. And honestly, he has some pretty good scaling in the final arc of Shinjuku. I think Yuji might actually be able to do more than nothing against Raditz. The thing really helping Yuji out here would be his speed scaling to Sukuna in the final arc, and the fact that he has soul damage. Plus his domain expansion, he does have the chance to hurt Raditz at least, which does technically mean he has an above 0% chance at beating Raditz. Unlike Megumi, who has a 0% chance. Megumi is pretty promising, but the issue is that he gets ousted from the story pretty early on, relatively speaking, like 150 chapters in. So he doesn't really scale to any of the FTL stuff in the final arc. Not to mention his one potential win con being like Mahoraga, that doesn't really apply to him because that would also likely take him out as well. Plus the Megumi at the end of the series doesn't have Mahoraga, so. Nobara is definitely, the no chance category isn't going to get organized too much, honestly. Because there's, like, as you could probably tell, a lot of these guys are going down here. But Nobara definitely has a less, honestly, like maybe less than 0% chance. But Nobara does have pretty good soul damage, I'll give her that, but the issue is that she's even slower than Megumi. Like JJK characters in the Shibuya arc, some of the lower tiers like Mahito, like those guys are like Mach speed. Other characters like Toji obviously scale way higher with feats from the anime and the manga, but when it comes to characters on Nobara's level, they're really stuck in those Mach speed areas, and against someone like Raditz, that's just not going to cut it. Gojo. So the thing about Gojo is that he does actually have multiple ways to lose a fight against a Dragon Ball Z character, and I covered all that in my Goku versus Gojo video. The issue is that Raditz doesn't have any of those win cons, and I expanded on this in my video on Gojo versus Chaozu, which I also recommend you check out after this one. The thing about Dragon Ball characters at this point in the story is that they are very vulnerable to being scrambled on the atomic level. So Hollow Purple would 100% work on Raditz. Not to mention that Raditz doesn't have any mind hacks resistance or any way to bypass infinity, so Gojo's probably going to defeat him more than likely anyway. Some people might say that Raditz would just blow up the planet, but Raditz actually never says this in the manga or anime. Vegeta was the first character to say that he would be willing to blow up the planet if he couldn't win a fight. So it's in character for Vegeta to do it, but Raditz, not so much. Maki also has an above 0% chance to beat Raditz, honestly. Her speed scaling is pretty good in the final arc, and she has the Soul Split Katana, so if she catches Raditz off guard, she might be able to do something to him, but it's very unlikely in my opinion. Even then, like, it is a Dura negability in Jujutsu Kaisen, but at the same time, it's not like it's going to instantly one-shot Raditz. It's going to hurt him, but as soon as he figures out that Maki has this kind of ability, like, he's going to stop fucking around. And even if he doesn't, like, it's still clearly Raditz heavy in my opinion, so I'd probably put her in above 0%. Maybe above Yuji? Yeah, we'll put her above Yuji. Inumaki, his cursed speech might be able to do something to Raditz, but the issue is that his cursed speech does actually, it matters how strong his opponent is, so it's not like he's going to be using it on someone as strong as Raditz when even Sukuna, he blew out his throat trying to make him stand still. So against someone like Raditz, who is stronger than Sukuna, let's be realistic here. Yeah, Inumaki's probably not doing anything. I would, will be nice. He does technically have an above 0% chance, so we'll be nice. Panda, also down there. He does technically have a win con with the unstoppable drumming beat. It is kind of a Dura negability, but kind of like Nobara, his speed scaling is just so bad that it doesn't really matter. Yuta definitely has the best chance so far, aside from Gojo, of course. Yuta's curse technique does allow him to copy other people's abilities, so with things like Jacob's Ladder and Curse Speech and his domain expansion, he might actually be able to do something against Raditz. Okay, we have the Kyoto school students next. Let's just Miwa clears the entirety, not Utoto. Miwa clears the entirety of Dragon Ball. Toto, on the other hand, unfortunately, he is the GOAT 100%, but he's not really going to be able to do anything to Raditz. His Boogie Woogie technique is very useful, but it's more so in a 2v1 that he really shines, not in a 1v1, and that's what we're treating this as. So, Toto, even though he is the GOAT objectively, not going to do anything to Raditz. You exist for no reason. You're not going to do anything. You're not going to do anything. Nanami is a character that has pretty busted ability as long as he's relative to his opponent in terms of stats. But unfortunately, against someone like Raditz, that's just not going to be a thing. We see with characters like Dagon and Sukuna in the final arc that this ability of Nanami's does still take into account things like durability. Even if it is a weak spot, that doesn't mean that it's infinitesimally weaker than the opponent. So Nanami still needs to be somewhat relative. Obviously, he can afford to be weaker, but not too much weaker than his opponent. You go there, you go there, you go there. Kusakabe has good reaction speed, but unfortunately, his simple domain doesn't really offer anything for Raditz. You go there, you go there. Geto is interesting. Because of his cursed spirit manipulation, he might actually have a chance at beating Raditz. He does actually have quite a few cursed spirits that he can use for potential cursed techniques, and he knows the ultimate Uzumaki. Ultimately, though, I think Kenjaku has a better chance. Honestly, with his gravity manipulation and the fact that he has a domain expansion, his chances are just a lot better than Geto's, honestly. Whether or not I would put him above or below Yuta, I couldn't tell you. Honestly, I'd say Kenjaku probably has less of a chance than Yuta, but he does have it, he has I think maybe is a good tier for him, honestly. Mahito would also probably go in the maybe category, just because of the way his curse technique works. He's able to manipulate the shape of someone else's soul, so if he ever actually touches Raditz, it's basically game over. Now, his speed scaling is pretty bad, especially compared to someone like Raditz, but that's actually not too much of an issue. Mahito can use his domain expansion and always hit Raditz no matter what. So honestly, if he can get off his domain expansion before Raditz completely obliterates him, like Nanami says in the manga, then yeah, Mahito can probably maybe beat Raditz, but I probably wouldn't put him any higher than these two, and definitely not probably. Jogo would also probably be in this above 0% tier, just because he actually has some pretty high temperature abilities, and characters in Dragon Ball at this point haven't really shown great heat resistance. There is one feat from the Red Ribbon Army saga where Goku's face gets burned by jet fumes and he doesn't really feel it too much, but it is a little hard to quantify whether or not that would give Raditz resistance to Jogo's temperatures, which is hot enough to turn buildings into dust and ash. Yeah, I'd probably say that Jogo has an above 0% chance. I can't say that for any of the other disaster curses though, because they all go in no chance. No chance, no chance, no chance, no chance. Urahime would probably go up with Jogo, actually above Jogo. For the same reasons as Jogo, but she's faster than him. The old-ass, dying-ass man from fucking the hospital. Yuji's sick and dying grandfather obviously beats Raditz. 100%. Nah, but actually, no chance. No chance, no chance, no chance, no chance, no chance. Miguel is interesting because he does have somewhat relative stats to Gojo, so he does actually have some pretty decent speed scaling. On top of that, his curse technique allows him to buff himself and debuff his opponent, so he might be able to debuff Raditz enough to the point where he could actually do something. And his whip is pretty cool too. It disrupts curse technique, so it might be able to do something to Raditz as well. It was even fucking with Gojo's Infinity. No chance. Oh, okay, this is actually interesting. Mimiko and Nanako. We don't know what their curse technique is, but it does have something to do with cameras, like Sukuna says. The issue is that we don't really know what exactly. If I had to guess, it probably has something to do with killing or destroying the person in the photo. But since we don't really know exactly, we can't rank them objectively. So that's why this tier exists. And we have one more person we need to throw in there too. We'll just get that out of the way. I don't think we ever learn what this guy's curse technique is. It could be like an instant solo Raditz technique or something, but until we know, can't really say anything about it. No chance, no chance, no chance, no chance. Toji. Toji would probably go below Itadori. He has the same win con as Maki. He uses the Soul Split Katana. The issue is that he's way slower than Maki from their showings in the manga, so I'd probably say he has less of a chance than Itadori, just because Yuji is faster. But he does definitely still have a win con, so there is that. Nope. 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 Actually, Naobito has his 24 frames a second sorcery, which might do something to Raditz if Raditz gets caught in it. I can't remember exactly how it works, so I'll throw it on the screen. But I believe Nobito has to touch his opponent for it to take into effect. And he's never going to touch Raditz, so no chance, yeah. No chance, no chance. The Smallpox Deity is our first character that we have to throw in probably, because the Smallpox Deity is legitimately busted. Basically, it traps you in a box, and you have 3 seconds to break out of the box, or you die. You just die right there. And even if you break out of the box, you get put inside another box, and the cycle repeats until you die. And considering the fact that Raditz likes to stand around and talk and kind of boast and stuff, it's very unlikely that his first instinct is to break out of the box. It's possible, but, then he gets put inside another box, and another one, and another one, so on and so forth, until he dies or he kills the Smallpox Deity. So I would say probably has a good chance at beating Gojo. And the same goes for Yuki, for obvious reasons. If you can crap out a black hole, you're probably gonna kill Raditz. Like Hikari, no chance. Yeah, I know Hikari has his fans, but the issue is that his curse technique is really only going to prolong the inevitable. It is a pretty good technique in like an equal stats matchup because it makes him immortal for 4 minutes and 11 seconds, basically. The way it works is that once he jackpots inside his domain expansion, he has unlimited cursed energy for 4 minutes and 11 seconds. And that basically makes him immortal since he's a master of reverse curse technique. The issue is that that's not going to do anything to Raditz. He does have some pretty decent speed scaling, if I remember correctly, although I don't think he actually scales to any of the FTL stuff. So even then, he's just going to die to Raditz's hand for 4 minutes and 11 seconds, and then Raditz will just one-shot him, probably. Nope, yeah. Okay. Naoya. Naoya has the same 24 frames a second sorcery that Nobito has, and he also has the infamous Mach 3 statement, which even the author thinks is dumb, so it shouldn't be used. But the thing that sets him apart from Nobito, and the thing that probably put him in the probably tier, is the fact that his sorcery, his 24 frames a second sorcery inside his domain expansion works on the cellular level. So if Raditz tries to break out of the 24 frames a second thing, he's going to get shredded apart on the cellular level, and characters at that point in Dragon Ball are very susceptible to that kind of level of attack, so I'd say that Naoya probably has a good chance at beating Raditz. No chance, no chance, no chance, no chance, no chance, no chance. Oh, okay, Higuruma. Higuruma is interesting because he does actually have some decent speed scaling from the final arc, so there is that. On top of that, his curse technique does actually give him the ability to defeat Raditz. Basically, his domain expansion allows him to convict someone of a crime, and depending on the crime he convicts them for, it'll either restrict them in some way or give him the death penalty, in which Higuruma gets the Executioner's Blade, which basically kills anything it touches. So probably the big question would be whether or not Higuruma could convict Raditz of a crime. We know that there's a Galactic King, and we know that there's a Galactic Patrol, and they probably enforce some kind of law across the universe. Based on being like a member of Frieza's army, and the fact that Raditz probably commits genocide regularly, I feel like Higuruma would be able to convict Raditz of a crime if he was aware of that. In which case, he would definitely probably get the penalty and the death sentence. So honestly, I'd probably put Higuruma in probably. But that's just my 2 cents. Nope. 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 Kashimo has some pretty good speed scaling, but it's not going to do anything to Raditz, so probably down there. Nah. Not yet. Nope. 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 He borrows the Soul Split Katana for a little bit, but his speed scaling is really bad, so nope. Okay, the last three. First up is Takaba. He 100% beats Raditz. Actually, he probably has a better chance than Gojo at beating Raditz. The way that Takaba's curse technique works is that it's called Comedian, and it allows him to bring anything that he finds funny into reality. It's basically Toon Force. The issue is that it can 100% hurt people. You're basically powerless against him whenever he does this. And not only that, he is both completely unaware of this ability, and the only way to stop him is to be more funny than him and make him feel unfunny because of it. That was Kenjaku's strategy, and he went in knowing about Takaba's curse technique, and he went in knowing how to counter it. Someone like Raditz, who doesn't have this information and who isn't really that comedic anyway. I mean, Raditz obviously has a sense of humor, but the thing is, Takaba doesn't like jokes about death or anything, so Takaba definitely isn't going to find any of Raditz's dark humor funny. So yeah, that's basically my reasoning for why Takaba would 100% stomp Raditz. Yorozu also goes in 100%. Yorozu doesn't have good speed scaling. She was doing pretty good against like a 15-finger Sukuna. But the issue is that that version of Sukuna doesn't even touch, he touches sub-relativistic, probably. The thing about Yorozu is that she can use her cursed energy to create Perfect Sphere. And if you don't know what Perfect Sphere is, I've explained it in a video before. It was Goku versus Gojo. But in that video, I basically covered that Yorozu's Perfect Sphere is made up of infinite points, and so it generates infinite pressure. And infinite pressure being generated, if you get hit with infinite pressure, obviously that's a universal attack right there. Normally Raditz could probably just get out of the way, but here's the thing. Yorozu also has a domain expansion, and we know that cursed energy deployed into domain will always hit. So Raditz is going to 100% get off-guarded by a literal high universal attack. The final character we need to rank is Sukuna, and he's probably the most complex character to talk about. He has an above 0% chance, and the reason is because his stats are by far the best of any Jujutsu Kaisen character. Sukuna, above 0%. But other than that, it is kind of hard to quantify. We know that his slashes do work on the soul, as we see against someone like Mahito. So he does have soul damage. And on top of that, he has a pretty good domain expansion. And he can adjust the strength of these slashes, meaning he could probably adjust it to affect Raditz's soul as well. And then Raditz gets torn apart on the soul, on the spiritual level. Sukuna also has the world-cutting slash, which... Well, I don't think it's a Duraneg technique per se. I do think it would 100% work on someone like Raditz. It's more accurate to say it's like a fourth dimensional attack. And basically that means anyone who gets hit by it is just straight up dead. Any 3D character that gets hit by the world-cutting slash is dead. And that, since Sukuna would 100% use his domain expansion in a fight like this, that does mean that Raditz is probably gonna get hit by the world cutting slash. I don't know if I'd rank him any higher than probably though, because he doesn't have the 100% kind of aura that Takaba, Yorozu, and Gojo have. Yorozu can go back there. But yeah, aside from these guys who are just different forms of everyone, or these aren't even characters, let's be real. Other than that though, let's see. So yeah, right there, that's where you are. But I feel like this is a pretty good tier list. I feel like we covered everything, so if you have any issues with this, Discord link is down in the description. You can try and debate me there. But other than that, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you liked it, be sure to subscribe, that smash button, and I'll see you eventually, maybe one day.